Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for coming in on a Saturday morning. We're gonna first start with some housekeeping rules for the webinar. We have a very interesting session today. Thank you all for joining in. Just make sure that you all are muted. If you have any questions, please use the chat box or raise your hand whenever you had a question, especially at the end of the Q&A. We're gonna have question and answers at the end, so you are most welcome to pose your questions. At any time as well during the session, you can use the chat box and I will try to address all your questions to Chris, and we will try to answer all the questions that you may have. You're gonna see at the bottom of the screen that you have some reaction buttons, a thumbs up whenever you're in agreement with us, whenever you understand and agree with anything that we are saying. Just make sure that you give us a feedback. We are also recording the session and we will share the link with you later in case that you want to go through the session again. Just a little bit of about me and who I am. My name is Susan. I have been in compliance and AML for the past 14 years. And I have been in different positions such as compliance officer, money laundering reporting officer, as well as independent consultant in the past. And I would like to introduce you to Toronto Compliance and AML Events Group. If you have not heard about TCAE in short, I would like to just give you a bit of background of what TCAE is. TCAE basically formed 6 months ago. It's a quite new group that we have. It's basically a centralized location where you would be able to see all the compliance and AML events, webinars that are available, and we share it with the members of the group. And as well, the reason I started this group was that I saw that there are a lot of amazing events happening and in Toronto, and no one kind of knew, or a few people would have known about the events. So I decided to start the group and share the information about the upcoming events so that everyone could benefit from and could participate. So that was the history behind how TCAE shaped. Quite recently, I launched the knowledge series for the community and for the compliance and AML community in specific, so that I could bring along some subject matter experts and some guest speakers so that they could share the knowledge and their experience, you know, to our community and help with spreading the knowledge and educating our community and basically the compliance and AML community. Today, we chose a very interesting topic. I'm sure that you all are familiar with the COVID-19. And the reason why I chose this topic for the first webinar is that around 10 months ago, I landed in Canada from Dubai. I used to live there for 18 years and I came to Canada. So I kind of understand some of the challenges that you might all face in this situation to find a new job, to settle in, and to understand that what are the job opportunities or how to approach the Canada's market and obtain a job, your first job, and you can secure your first job. So I totally can resonate with most of you who are looking for a job. And as well as that, I think that it's a difficult time that we are all facing together. I want to help out as much as possible to find ways that we could help into this, to overcome this situation together and help each other out. So that is the gist of behind the today's subject. And Chris from Aston Carter, one of the leading recruitment agencies in Canada, especially for AML and compliance field, was kindly enough to share his time with us, and he basically agreed to be the first speaker of the webinar. So thank you so much, Chris. Thank you for coming. I'm really excited for today. We have a full house. Yeah, the floor is yours.
All right, excellent. Thank you so much for having me, Susan. I really appreciate it, and what an honor it is to be speaking to this many people today through such an awesome venue. I think this is just fantastic. I'm going to go into a little bit of information about me. So I've been working in staffing for the last 6 years. Prior to this, though, I was working within municipal politics in the city of Toronto. Worked for the mayor for almost 2 years. But after that, I wanted a change. Didn't really know that much about AML compliance, staffing for that matter. But I had a friend from university who was working for Aerotech Aston Carter. So I took an opportunity there, and what an opportunity it was. For the last 5 years, I've been managing our AML and compliance division. We work with 5 of the 6 largest banks in North America, or in Canada, and North America for that matter. We place all kinds of different AML skill sets within financial institutions. I love learning about people. I love learning about what makes them tick, their goals, their skills, their interests, and really I like helping them realize their potential, maximize what they're capable of, and help line them up with the jobs that they love, and building lasting relationships. There are a lot of people that I've been working with now in the Toronto market for 4 or 5 years, and it's so awesome to have been working with them for so long and see them grow in their career and just have these amazing lasting relationships. In my spare time, I love to volunteer. I spend a lot of my time outdoors. I'm a pretty avid fly fisherman, and I listen to a ton of podcasts. Love podcasts. If anyone's got any recommendations at the end, please feel free to send them my way. I can't get enough of those. So.
That's amazing. That's very interesting to know about you, Chris. That's amazing. I'm sure Stephen here would give you a lot of feedback on the podcast. He's our podcast guru in AML as well, so he would definitely have some recommendation lined up for you.
Oh, love it, love it. Well, awesome, Stephen.
That's great.
We'll connect after. Love it.
Perfect. Exactly. So, Chris, I want to ask you first of all about the situation that we are in, the COVID-19. I understand that this is a very difficult situation right now, and a lot of people are asking that how does the job market look like right now? There are a lot of uncertainty. The market is not doing well. There is a possible recession coming in. How is the job market right now? What is your take on right now on it? And what do you think that we could do to make sure that we are prepared for this situation? Or what are the things that you believe that we can leverage from this situation?
Great question. So what I'm seeing with the job market right now, I'm not seeing a ton of layoffs just yet in the AML community. I'm seeing a little bit of a slowdown in some hiring, however. I will say that, but a lot of what happens in AML and compliance is regulatory in nature, and at the end of the day, the obligations to complete those duties are still on the financial institutions. But you know, it has slowed down. The hiring has slowed down, and personally, I'm a glass half full kind of guy. So, you know, when I see things like this, I look at it as an opportunity to better yourself, to, you know, position yourself for success when this thing runs its course. And it will run its course, and it will get better, and it will pick up. But in the meantime, like, what an opportunity to, you know, rejig your resume, you know, fix up your LinkedIn, take some courses, and really position yourself to come out of the gates hot when things pick up.
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree. We should try our best to keep our hope and faith to make sure that we can get through this together, and we are in this all together, and we would be able to definitely get out of it and be back again, you know, to a normal routine. So yeah, thank you. I believe that, you know, that's totally true.
Absolutely.
Great. Great. So Chris, let's walk through a lineup topics that you prepared for us today. It's a very rich content, and I believe that, you know, we're going to have a lot of questions and a lot of feedback on this. So please go ahead and share. The floor is yours.
Absolutely. Thank you. So I've lined up some exciting topics to be discussed today. Starting off with LinkedIn. So we're going to look at LinkedIn profile do's and don'ts. What does a good LinkedIn profile look like? The art of LinkedIn networking. And once we wrap up the LinkedIn part of this, we're going to transition over to resumes. So how to create an appealing resume that pops, and what does a good resume look like? So we're going to actually have an example of what a good resume looks like. And then we're going to end it off with a question and answers session. Excellent. So I've lined up some things here, LinkedIn profile do's and don'ts. I think it's absolutely necessary for any LinkedIn profile to have a professional headshot. When you're taking a headshot for a LinkedIn profile, you want to make sure that you've got professional business attire on, that you're smiling. You don't necessarily have to be smiling, though. I know some people like the, you know, stern business professional look, and that's totally fine as well. Make sure you've got clear lighting, you're facing the camera. You know, it's the very first impression people get when they click on a LinkedIn profile. You might as well put your best foot forward and take the picture part of it seriously. So definitely LinkedIn headshot. You want to update your profile regularly. I always look at my LinkedIn profile as something that's continuously evolving. As I grow in my career, I have been in an account management role for about 5 years, but the roles and responsibilities, the skill sets that we work on, those kinds of things are always changing. So I'm always kind of rejigging and adding new things in and taking other things out of my LinkedIn profile. Volunteer work, you know, if I start doing extra volunteer work, that's something that I put in there. You know, it's something that's always evolving. So you want to make sure that you don't just set it and forget it, but that you continuously build on it and try and make it the best it can be. But it's really always a work in progress. Include a headline. It's an opportunity, again, just to give a quick little summary of who you are, what you do, and you can go into, once you filled out that headline, a little bit more detailed about me section where you can really, you know, 1 to 2 paragraphs, summarize who you are, what you do, what does your career trajectory look like, that kind of stuff. Once you move on from that, make sure that you fill out, you know, a summary for all of your job descriptions. Don't make it too lengthy. 1 paragraph or 3 to 5 bullet points should suffice. and make sure you list whether or not that was a contract, full-time opportunity, whatever. It's good to be transparent. Include dates of employment, months, years, and you know, then at the bottom there's other things you can put in there: volunteer information, certifications, designations, what kind of software are you proficient with, languages spoken, that's a huge one, and education. We'll go into like some of the more specifics when we actually look at the LinkedIn profile, but as far as don'ts, make sure, you know, that you don't have typos or poor grammar. It's, you know, it's one thing that just kind of shows that, you know, you're paying attention, and that you want to make sure that you're putting your best foot forward. It's easy just to, you know, ask a peer, ask a friend, somebody to provide an extra set of eyes on something like that, because, you know, you want to make sure, again, that you're putting your best foot forward there, and typos and poor grammar doesn't necessarily indicate that. Create or include things that are inconsistent. So that could mean job descriptions, job titles, length of employment, dates of employment. You know, there have been instances that I've run into where people's information on their LinkedIn account doesn't necessarily line up with what they put on their resume. And that right there can rule somebody out of consideration for the job very quickly. So make sure that, you know, your LinkedIn profile and that your resume are in sync. Excellent. So what does a good LinkedIn profile look like? So actually, my boss, Denis, was kind enough to let me use his. I thought he had a fairly well filled out profile. So one thing you'll notice, top left, he's got a clear headshot. He's in business attire. You know, he's smiling, he's facing the camera. You know, right off the bat, that's the first thing people look at. So you want to make sure that you have a good LinkedIn headshot. If you look below the next line, helping people and businesses reach their potential. It's a one-sentence summary of who you are and what you do, but you want to make sure that it's got pop, that it's got zing, that when somebody opens that up, you know, that they're saying, okay, I want to learn more about this person. I want to see, you know, what makes them tick. I want to see what they've done. You know, I think that that's a great opportunity that's not utilized very often, to be quite honest. But, you know, if you can, fill it out. Below that, you'll see the About Me section. That's something where you can go 1 to 2 paragraphs tops, but you can really paint a picture of what does your career trajectory look like. So, you know, where did you start? Where have you been? Where are you now? And what are you responsible for? As well, what are you passionate about? What makes you tick? That's the kind of stuff that you want to put in that About Me section. That's really where you can stand out as a person and not just a piece of paper or a resume. So some other parts of a resume or of a LinkedIn profile that, in my opinion, make up a good LinkedIn profile. You want to be active on LinkedIn. So you want to be somebody that is contributing in, you know, network group discussions. You want to be, you know, commenting on people's posts, adding insightful information, even just congratulating peers and friends on growth in their career and things like that. You know, it's a great way to put yourself out there. One thing that my boss has done quite well is, you know, he reads a lot of books, and he very frequently will post recommendations on great books that he's read. You know, it's just a great way to put yourself out there and get a little brand recognition. So, this is the real meat and potatoes here. But when you're filling out the job description for a LinkedIn profile, you really want to, like the devil is in the details here. You want to take your time. You want to make sure you do a good job. So right off the bat, make sure that, the job title and the dates of employment are there. One little thing that I see quite often is that people will quite often list the dates that they work somewhere, but when they move into a new role or into a new job, they don't necessarily end the duration of that role. So, I've got a peer that I talked to the other day. This individual was a recruiter and they're an account manager now, but it still says that they are a recruiter on their LinkedIn page because they didn't end it. So make sure that you're, updating the dates of employment. When you're filling out the profile, it's good to give a little summary of, what the company does that you work for, and then some of your responsibilities and duties. Don't make it too lengthy. People have let's be honest, these days people have very, very short attention spans. I know I do. So when you're filling these things out, keep it short and succinct, to the point. 3 to 5 bullet points on your top responsibilities and duties, or 1 to 2 paragraphs. But you really don't want to make it too lengthy because you'll lose people right off the bat. There is an opportunity when you're filling out a profile to add things like accolades, marketing material, what have you. Just a nice little way to go above and beyond. Not necessary, but if there are awards that you've won, if there's recognition you've got from your peers, why not list that in the body of the job description on your profile? And then finally, for university, one thing I do see is people listing either just the university or the post-secondary institute that they went to school at. They don't list what the degree or diploma was in, and they don't list dates, or sometimes they'll list a diploma and maybe not mention where they got it. Just make sure that you fill that out. Even the specialization of the degree or the diploma, it just gives hiring managers and recruiters a better insight into what you learned while you were in school. So just continuing on this for the LinkedIn profile, skills and endorsements. It was something that was big 5 years ago. I've seen this tail off a little bit, but I think that this is an awesome and underutilized part of a LinkedIn profile. You can actually select the skills that you are proficient in and have your peers endorse you. I mean, why not utilize your peers as a resource and help you get some recognition for some of the things that you're competent in? So, you'll see, like, for example, my director, Denis, staffing services, leadership, and recruiting. Looks like I still need to endorse him for recruiting. So, bad on me. But, again, great opportunity to get some recognition from your peers and prove to other people that are looking at your profile that, hey, it's not just me that thinks I'm good at this. Look at all the other people who have endorsed me for it. On this topic, there is a recommendation section on a LinkedIn profile. It's a great way to essentially have a working set of reference checks embedded within your LinkedIn profile. I think that this is something that's not utilized nearly enough. If you're doing a good job, like, why not just have your manager and your peers put a brief summary for you? I know that, it makes a difference when people are reviewing these profiles. So, even if it's, and like let's face it, sometimes people's managers and bosses can be busy. Why not just write the reference yourself, get sign off on it, say, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Manager, do you agree that I've been doing a good job? Yes. Okay. Well, I've already prepared this. I know you're busy. if you're comfortable with it, can you just post this on my LinkedIn profile as an endorsement? Really easy, great.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Chris. And another point that I believe that it had been effective for me was that whenever I wanted to get a recommendation from anyone, I usually first write one for them. And I would say that, you know, I wrote a recommendation for you because I know you and I've worked with you and I totally trust, you know, your ability to work. And at the same time, when they see that, indirectly, they will write something back for you. So this is another tip which I believe that it can be useful. And as you said, it's not a section that we are utilizing enough. And I believe from your perspective as a recruiter, when you're going to a profile and you're seeing a LinkedIn profile and you see that how many recommendation it has and you read the recommendation, you will get that comfort.
Absolutely. Because to me, if I'm looking at a profile on LinkedIn and I see that there are a number of people that have put their reputation on the line, that have put their name on the line and said, hey, this person is a great team player. They exceed expectations. You know, they do a fantastic job. When I see the people are willing to put their reputation and name on the line for someone, it makes me, as you know, as a recruiter, a lot more likely to move forward with that individual because I have a sense of reassurance from those recommendations.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Other things, you know, accomplishments, great opportunity to list, like, you know, things like languages that you speak. We live in such a multicultural city, Toronto. A lot of companies will have clients from all kinds of different backgrounds. If you're able to speak multiple languages, I mean, that's fantastic, and it is a huge value add to a potential employer. So list it. Other things, certifications, ACAMS, CFCS, what have you, definitely want to list those. And you know, any other extracurricular designations, certifications that you have, make sure you fill out the accomplishment section and list those out. Sometimes just a quick thing, recruiters will actually put in specific things in a LinkedIn search. And if you don't fill out that accomplishment section with certain certifications and whatnot, designations, it won't pop up in our search. So you want to make sure that, you know, you list that and get credit for it. And then interests, it's just a good opportunity to understand, you know, as a recruiter or somebody like a hiring manager looking at your profile, who you are, what makes you tick, just get a better sense of the person behind the profile. One thing I didn't include, but there's a volunteering section as well. Feel free to list off any volunteer opportunities. It's just a good opportunity to maybe find common ground with people. You know, some folks might also volunteer. You know what I mean? Anything that you can do to find common ground and build a relationship with people is what I'm getting at. So. Susan, I think you might be on mute.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Can you hear me now? Yes, yeah. Perfect. Sorry for that. Cool. So I was trying to say that let's assess now, how do you grade your LinkedIn profile, knowing that you now have some examples about the good LinkedIn profile would look like. How do you grade yourself? Let's see. Okay. Waiting for the votes to come in. We are 70% there. Okay, good. 75%. Okay, that's great. Wow, that's an interesting result. Okay, let me share the result with you. So let's look at the result now. Chris, what do you think about the result?
I think that, you know, for the folks that are 6 or below, looks like you've got some work to do, but I hope that some of the stuff that I have shared will help. It's interesting that nobody listed themselves as a 10. I personally listed myself as an 8. You know, even talking through it, I haven't utilized the endorsements part of it as well as I probably should. So I've given myself a few action items on that, but I think that, you know, for the folks listed at 7 to 9, like there's no real perfect LinkedIn profile. Like I said before, it's something that's constantly evolving. It's a work in progress. It's always changing, but I think just paying attention to your profile, making sure that you're updating it when you can. You know, those are the little things you can do that help distance you from the rest of the pack and set you up for success, and, you know, make you more noticeable to hiring managers and recruiters. So
absolutely, absolutely. Thanks.
Okay, so who should you add to your LinkedIn network? I mean, as you're building this thing out, I think it's important to be tailored and you know, add people to your LinkedIn network with a sense of intent. When you're adding people, it's good to add folks like family, friends, your coworkers, former coworkers, people that are professional acquaintances that maybe you've met at some of the networking events, as well as recruiters that are aligned to your skill set. So, you know, it's good to add people that, you know, you help build out your network, you help get your name out there. What I love though is people that you don't know. So it's really good to follow people that are industry professionals and influencers. We all know the names, and if not, you know, I can recommend some people to follow after the presentation if you want to circle up. But there are people that are constantly posting really good intel on what's going on in the AML community. And I think that those folks are great ones to follow just to stay ahead of the trends. And there's also great opportunity to participate in discussions that they set up. And my personal favorite, your biggest critic. So I know that everyone's got that one person that is highly critical of them. You know, it might not be super fun interacting with them all the time, but everyone's got that one person that they know is going to be very critical of them. I would challenge you, if you haven't already, to add that person to your LinkedIn profile or to your LinkedIn network and solicit some feedback from them on what you could be doing better regarding your LinkedIn profile. Those are the people that are going to give you the brutal and honest feedback that you need in order to, you know, help curate a good LinkedIn profile. Other things, networking groups. There's tons of AML and compliance LinkedIn groups out there. Great place, again, to get industry content, participate in some fantastic discussions. I think that, you know, that's an underutilized but great opportunity, again, just to build your knowledge base in the space and meet people that work in your industry. Okay, so how do you message people on LinkedIn? I get a ton of LinkedIn messages, and when I say a ton, it ranges from 5 to 10 people a day reaching out to me on LinkedIn. I get a lot of messages. I'll be totally honest, I don't respond to all of them. But there are things you can do just because I have so many coming in. There's certain things you can do to make your message pop, to get the attention of the person that you're reaching out to, whether it's a hiring manager, someone you want to network with, or a recruiter. So you want to make sure, first of all, tailor your approach and customize it to the person. If you look over on the don't side, I'm going to tie these two together. Don't take the shotgun approach. You know, if anyone knows how that works, essentially a shotgun just shoots in every direction. It's not going to get you very far if you're copying and pasting your messages and sending them to people. Take some time. I notice it. I know other people that get LinkedIn messages daily notice when somebody actually takes the time to customize that message. Do some homework on the person. Do some homework on their company, their work history, interests. You want to make sure that your message is relevant and interesting. Make sure that it's well formatted, free of grammatical errors, and make sure that you're reaching out to folks that are relevant to the AML and compliance industry. Sometimes, it's unfortunate, I get a ton of messages just because I have the word recruiter on my profile from people that work in aerospace and defense, IT, you name it, that are looking for jobs. And when they message me, the first thing I think is, you didn't even look at my profile, and you know, you're taking the shotgun approach. You know, so make sure that you're very intentful on or who you're reaching out to and why. You know, on the don't, it ties in with the grammar and the formatting. Make sure you're spelling the names right and sending off messages after they've been proofread. Don't send them off if you haven't either proofread it or have had a second set of eyes take a look.
Absolutely. I'd like to add, Chris, something in here as well. I remember when I came here and I wanted to approach people to meet with me, and I want to introduce myself to them. And one thing that I saw that it worked was that when I was sending the LinkedIn messages, I never asked them about the job. I never asked them that I'm looking for a job. I'm not actually sending my resume to them, because that is the first impression that they're gonna get from me. So what I tried to do, or what I tried to customize my message, was that I'm here and I'm trying to learn from you, and I would like your help to guide me to understand more about the community, as well as the regulatory framework. And that really worked like magic, because I saw that, you know, like people, they like to help out, and they always have this intention that they like to help out. And when you go forward with that, even they don't know you, but they would like to help. So if I knew that, or maybe the first messages that I had in mind, okay, let me send out my resume to that person. And I tried that, you know, in the past. I'm admitting that I tried that, and I learned from it that it didn't work. I sent my resume, I sent, you know, like quite a message, but it never worked. They didn't come back to me. And then I realized that, okay, let me try another approach. And that was the approach that I used. And I asked for help. And I said, you know, I'm new to this community and I would like your help and guidance. And that opened a lot of doors for me. So that is a tip that I believe that, you know, a lot of people could learn from.
Absolutely. I love that. You know, my best relationships, just to tack on, like as a new account manager, when I was first starting out, I took the same approach. I want to work with your company. I want to provide you with AML and compliance resources to get your job done. I had to take a step back, and instead I started reaching out to people in the industry that I wanted to learn from. a lot of my best relationships and best clients are actually folks that I just reached out to and said, hey, I don't know about the specifics and in and outs of AML and compliance. I went to school for environmental science. I worked in politics before this. I don't understand AML and compliance. You're somebody that does. I'm making a career out of this, and I just want to learn. And I ask people to be my mentor. And to your point, Susan, it's in people's nature to want to help one another. You know, just reach out and network. Just learn from people.
Exactly, absolutely. I think that that is the key, you know, which we will try to build. Networking is the key important thing, and you know, to get there, the message that you have to first put out there is very crucial, and it should be to a point where you are saying that, you know, you want to help out, you're here to learn, and then they would definitely help you out.
Absolutely. What does a good LinkedIn message look like? So you want to identify the person by their first or their last name. You know, you could say good afternoon. In this case, this is a message to my my teammate Richard Williams that I sent as an example. But you could say, you know, good afternoon, Richard, or good afternoon, Mr. Williams. It's really a point of preference. Outline who you are, what you do, why you're reaching out to that person, and you know, ask for a time to follow up and put something in calendar right away. So strike while the iron is hot. Formally end the message and include your contact info. And then if you look on the right, so you'll notice right off the bat, good afternoon, Mr. Williams. My name's Chris Fickle, and I'm an AML analyst with XYZ Bank. I've recently finished a contract and looking for my next opportunity. A little bit of a summary about what they do. And I mean, this is more of a message to a recruiter. So, you know, we put people to work. If it was going to somebody in the industry that you want to look for, I think the message would look a little bit different. It wouldn't be as geared towards, you know, wanting a job. But this is more how to reach out to somebody in recruitment. Make sure that you're setting a follow-up time as well. You know, a lot of the time there's no next steps or action items. So these things can kind of fall on deaf ears. But when you're saying, hey, I've got time next Thursday at 10, how does that sound for a follow-up conversation? People are a lot more likely to respond and to actually set that follow-up. What does a bad LinkedIn message look like? I get a lot more bad LinkedIn messages than good ones. Let me tell you. This is just something that you know, I sent to Richard, but it's I actually got one like this last Friday, or 2 Fridays ago. The message to me said, "Hello, Fickle. I work in AML and need a job. Job was spelled wrong. Please help, Chris." Now, obviously, I do want to help everyone that I can, but at the same time, you know, my resources are limited, and you know, if somebody can't even take the time to proofread a message, and yeah, Stephen, to your point, it happens a lot more than people think. You know, this kind of stuff, like, just to be frank, it's not going to get you anywhere. Take some time, you know, create a message with intent. That'll get you a lot further than, you know, a message like this. And again, I get these all the time. All right, next up, resume writing skills. This is something I am very passionate about as well. I'm gonna just dive right into it. When you're putting together a resume, you know, list your name at the top, your contact info, but also if you've got designations, you know, your CFE, your CAMS, your sanctions certificate, what have you, make sure that you're putting that up at the top right beside your name. It's just another reminder to the hiring manager that you have designations, that you're an expert in your field, and it's just a little thing that you can do to stand out. It's the very first thing something or someone looks at when they're looking at a resume. So make sure you're highlighting and getting, credit for the things that you've done. Summary. So for everything in a resume, my rule of thumb is 3 to 5 bullet points. You don't want to go any more than 5. Everything past that is just fluff. 3 to 5 bullet points with the most relevant responsibilities and duties that you had in the role. Or in this case, for the summary, you can, with your summary, I think it's a good opportunity to make mention of things like SWIFT payments, FinTrack, OSFI, STRs, what have you. If you've got experience with them. And then skills, when you're filling out the skills section, make sure you list the softwares and systems that you're proficient with, as well as your soft skills. So, if you're a team player, make sure you're listing that. If you're self-motivated, same thing. Yes.
Great. Chris, we have a question. So the question is it a best practice to include the address in cover letter or advisable to include in the resume?
I mean, really, it's all a point of preference. Some people do it in the cover letter. It all depends. If you're reaching out to a recruitment agency, you don't necessarily need a cover letter. If you are reaching out to a financial institution, it depends. Some of them will require a cover letter, in which case, feel free to include that there, and then you can just keep it with your name and take the rest of it out. It's really what's relevant to the specific situation. If you are including a cover letter, then yes, you can definitely take out the address, the email, the phone number, and leave it on the cover letter. And in the body of the email, just have your name and any certifications or designations you have. When you're writing a resume, so this to me is something that I love. I know it's 6 bullet points, but I really did like this. I tweaked it a little, but I borrowed it from somebody that we actually work with. So job title on the left, dates on the top right. Make sure that with the dates, you're putting the month. And instead of, so if you'll notice between 2019 and the word present, there is a hyphen. Far too often when I get a resume, it will say, Feb 19 or 2019 till present. Till is not very formal. It looks much better if you're hyphening in between Feb 2019 and present instead of putting till. Just a little pet peeve of mine, but it's something that does get noticed. Under that, you can list a little bit of a summary of the employer and why you were working in that role. So, in this instance, hired as a consultant for a remediation initiative within an FIU at one of the largest banks in Canada. Below that, you can give a little bit of a summary of some of the core responsibilities. Sometimes I will see people list every single duty under the sun. So, it could be like, hey, I've done in this role, I do name scanning, I do high risk review, I do KYC remediation, I do end-to-end investigations. I also write and file STRs, and I do triage. Be honest and transparent about what you're actually responsible for. Employers love that, and they like it a lot more than when you try and make it look like you do everything. One other little thing at the bottom, notable achievements. If you have had a high QC score, if you've exceeded metrics, if you've won awards, if there's anything performance-based that you've done, listed in the notable achievement section. It's a great way to stand out and show that not only did you do the job, but you did it well.
Chris, there is actually one of the questions that I usually get from people is that if they use these kind of buzzwords or important, phrases, let's say fintech and all, they would be picked up by the ATS system.
Yep.
Do you agree with that?
They definitely will be picked up by the system, but if people are, and here's the thing, if you've done it, if you've got legitimate experience with the buzzwords that you're adding, fantastic. Because I know there are shops where people will be doing everything, whether it's KYC remediation or onboarding, to AML investigations, to filing to the regulators, and everything in between. There are those shops and financial institutions where people will wear a lot of different hats. But if you are just putting those buzzwords in to get noticed, it will get caught at some point. So if you're putting a buzzword in, but you're not necessarily proficient with that, or you don't have that exposure, either during the interview or early on into your tenure in the role, it's something that can come up. Now, if you don't have experience with STRs or FinTrack rules and guidelines, it doesn't mean that you can't go online and read up about them and make yourself proficient. And you can still list that as a buzzword in your summary, right? Hey, I've checked the website and I've read up and I'm very proficient with that stuff. I think that's something that's honest, it's transparent, it shows that you've done your homework, but maybe you weren't doing it in a role. But if you list that it was one of your core responsibilities, just to get flagged by the ATS system, it will come up in an interview, or it will come up during some point of your employment.
Great.
Education and certifications. So great opportunity here just to list any formal training, designations, certifications, or education. So this individual, they had their CAMs, they listed the month and the year that they got it, their CSC, and their degree. Again, it's good to put your specification for your degree. So this person had their BCom and they got it in global management. So, it's good just to list the specification again, especially if you're coming right out of school and you're looking to get into AML. It's good to give a hiring manager insight into what it was that you were studying, since you're not coming into the working world with necessarily a ton of hands-on experience. And then, extracurricular. So this is a great opportunity to stand out as a person. There are different schools of thought on whether or not people should include this stuff. I, for one, love it. I think that this is, again, a way to differentiate yourself and make yourself more real and appeal to the humanity in people. It's a great opportunity to bond over things, to stand out as not just Chris Fickle, the piece of paper, the resume in front of you, but Chris Fickle, the person. Chris Fickle, the person that volunteers or likes to golf or, goes outdoors a lot, that kind of stuff. And you'd be surprised, especially in the interview phase, how often hiring managers will say, oh, you like the outdoors. Oh, where do you go camping? Oh, me too. Oh, okay, cool. And it just differentiates yourself and sets yourself apart from the pack. Oh,
Great.
yeah, awesome.
Awesome. So let's have some question and answer. I believe that a few of the guys have got some questions. I'm going to pose some question that we received during the session, Chris.
Okay.
Stephen asked, how much weight do you put on the LinkedIn activity versus the resume item? i.e. work experience, education, etc.?
I would say that the LinkedIn profile doesn't necessarily have to be as meaty or as juicy, like full of information as necessarily the resume. So, as long as it's neat and tidy, the LinkedIn profile, and it looks professional, um, I think that that's fine. The resume, though, that's, in my opinion, you know, at the end of the day, that's what the hiring managers, that's what HR, that's what whomever is looking at and trying to make a decision off of. So I weight the resume more heavily. I will say that I think that a good LinkedIn profile in tandem, though, is important. But I
Right.
would weight the resume heavier or higher.
Great. So there is another question, Chris, about ACAMS certification. So in most of the job description, they mentions an ACAM certification is an asset to have. Do you believe that this is, do you basically believe that this is correct as an asset? Is it the only certification that basically recruiters will accept? Or do you believe, are there other certifications?
I mean,
yeah.
Oh, sorry.
And as well as that, I have another question about the ACAM certification. They want to know that if they should include the period of validity for ACAM certification on the resume.
I think that it's good to include the validity period. I think that it's good to be open and transparent about that stuff. I have put people on client sites where, they were hired on the premise that they had a valid CAMS, when in reality it was only valid for a few weeks into their tenure in the role. I do think it's important. It's I don't know. It's good to be transparent and forthcoming. You don't want to have that stuff come up on the back end. I think that there are also, as on the certifications part, there are a ton of certifications out there that you can get, other than your CAMS designation. There's the new sanctions one that's come out from ACAMS. Your CFCS, like Seneca's got a phenomenal financial crime program. CFE is one that I come across very often. Employers love it when people have their CFE. There are tons of certifications out there. What people really want to see is that you're going above and beyond to, build out your skill set and your, you're not just calling it quits at 5 o'clock when you go home. You're constantly learning, because like this landscape changes all the time. So they like just seeing that people are consistently learning and building on their skill set. But yeah, there's tons of certifications and designations out there.
Great. There is a question as well that Arshia made. Hi, Chris. I have advised to put the experience which I have in volunteering under the work experience section. Do you think that's fine, or should it be under extra curriculum activity section?
Point of preference, I actually saw a profile on Thursday that had that listed. It can be a little bit confusing to hiring managers. I would almost recommend just putting it in the extracurricular section, unless, and here's the one caveat, I would say unless it's relevant to what it is that you're doing, or the field of work that you're in. But even then, I'm of the mindset that volunteer work should be under the extracurricular thing. It's a great opportunity to have some good discussion with potential hiring managers and bond over things other than just the technical part of a resume?
Sure. There is one person. I will unmute you, Subhav. You can ask your question. You're unmuted.
Hi, Suzanne and Chris. Thank you for unmuting me.
Sure. Thanks for having you.
Hi.
Yeah.
Super.
Yeah, I'm working with Deloitte Muscat as an internal auditor and a risk consultant. And I have a couple of questions to ask.
Sure.
Yeah, the first one is how important it is to have a premium membership of the LinkedIn.
It depends on how active and how many messages you're planning on sending out. I mean, I would say probably not that important unless you're sending out a ton of messages to people's inboxes because you know, with like a premium membership you get among other things like quite a few in-mail credits, but I mean, I don't think that it's absolutely necessary to have a premium LinkedIn profile. It's yeah, on Steven's point, it's a lot of money, and it's. I mean, let me put it
Okay.
this way: if I wasn't having it covered by my employer, I probably wouldn't be paying for a premium membership.
All right, thank you. The other question is, now I am a Canadian PR holder. I just received my COPR and I'll be moving to Canada probably in July and or August first week.
Okay.
So now the thing is, when I'm applying on my LinkedIn, few of the recruiters asked me that whether you have a local Canadian number and a local address.
Okay.
As right now I'm residing in Muscat. So that is something which is getting me backwards in the interview sessions and getting highlighted in the recruiters. So what is your suggestion? One suggestion which one of my friend gave me is that to use a virtual number like a Canadian apps or something. But my other friend's view is that will have a negative impact on the recruiters and they might blacklist you for using the virtual number.
Well, I'm not too sure about the virtual number piece. That's not something I've encountered, but what I will say is with a lot of the software systems, a lot of the systems that recruiters use, they're not built to have anything outside of a 10-digit phone number. So they can only accommodate more often than not, you know, like a 416 number or like a 10-digit North American number. And same also goes for address. Like they need postal codes, things like that. Like it's a little ridiculous, but like sometimes it's just restrictions that the software has internally where recruiters run into issues creating a profile for you. But I mean, I think that it's good to start looking at opportunities now from abroad if you're moving here. One thing that we've run into, and I know employers can sometimes be a little bit leery, is we've lined up opportunities for folks coming to Canada and then hit a snag along the way. You know, I think that you'll see that as you really start to get closer to the July, August window when you're coming here, that you'll see a lot more employers that are a lot more responsive to your messages. Because for them, it's a long way out, and there are a lot of things that could potentially change. And so there is concern on their side. Where we see success lining up opportunities for people coming here from abroad is usually that 1 month to 2 week range before they arrive. Just because to the hiring manager, it's a little bit more real. You know, I mean, I would say though it's great to build out your network now. Start reaching out to people, and if you can get some preliminary interviews, by all means. Also, feel free to message me after, and I can put you in touch with the recruitment team. If you're coming here, we at Aston Carter would be happy to partner with you.
Thank you so much, Chris, for that. Okay, my other question is related to that only. That I am a certified fraud examiner, as
Excellent.
well as a qualified internal auditor and a law graduate. So is
Great.
there any scope for me in AML and compliance industry? Because I'm somewhat like want to switch from risk consultant to a full-time AML consultant.
Okay. And sorry, could you repeat the question?
Yeah. So right now I am into core internal audit.
Yeah.
But I would like to switch my industry from internal audit to an AML consultant.
Okay.
So do you think I have a scope with these certifications like certified fraud examiner, and I'm a law graduate as well? So
Absolutely.
do you think there's a scope?
Yeah. Without question, yes. I can tell you with absolute certainty, we've placed folks coming from a law background, coming from an audit background. It's employers love it because you're critical, right? Especially, when you've got your CFE, when you're working in audit, when you understand how the laws work, you're critical. We placed a lot of folks coming from those backgrounds in QA type positions, especially. So yes.
Thank you so much, Chris.
Yeah, no problem. I think it's
I'll
doable.
definitely get in touch with you and learn more about all these processes.
Please.
One more thing,
Do.
Chris,
Yeah.
my wife has also joined this. My wife is also there with me on this webinar, but she is from a different field. She is a special clinical psychologist in special education.
Okay.
So she wants to have a query with you. Is it possible?
Yeah, we could talk after. That's not really a field of specialty for me. Like I don't know how much value I'd be able to add, but I'm happy to chat. Yeah.
Yeah, if you don't mind, because we are on the top of the hour, if we can take that, on a separate, we are gonna share Chris's contact details, so maybe you can contact him directly and set up a call or something.
Sure, Susan. Sure, that's absolutely fine.
Perfect. Thank you so much for your questions.
That's absolutely fine. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Do you have any other questions?
We have so many other questions, Chris.
Okay.
So just hang on with me. We have Sayali as well. I'm gonna unmute you. He raised the hand. Let me unmute, and you can raise your question.
Sally, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Susan, for unmuting me.
Sure.
Yeah. So my question is, I have recently moved to Canada on PR, and I have 9 years of experience in compliance and financial risk industry. Currently, I am looking for jobs, but what I have experienced is that, entering in the Canadian market without Canadian experience and finding a job at managerial level is difficult. So I am also willing to take an entry-level job, but because of my 9 years of experience, I am also finding it difficult to get an entry-level job. So in that case, what approach should I follow? Like in my resume, if I'm putting manager and I am applying for an analyst job, definitely I'm overqualified for that. So how do I take approach for that?
So Ali, that's something I see all the time where people have fantastic experience from abroad. They've worked in management roles and they have a hard time finding an opportunity in the market here. What I will say is if you're set on a management position, I would say continue to hold out because I do see people move into management roles. If anybody has their phone, if they could put it on mute, it's a little bit fuzzy. But I do see people from abroad that hold out for management roles. Sorry, if everyone could just mute their devices, it's a little there. Perfect, thank you. So if you're looking for that kind of role, please hold out. But a good way to get into the market here, because it can be tricky sometimes, it can be hard to get into the Canadian market. It's, like, look at like remediation projects. So we've helped a number of folks where we've come in, and had a remediation initiative that we've partnered up with a client for, where we've placed 10 people for a 6-month to 2-year period. The pay is competitive, and it's a good opportunity to get your foot in the door, so to speak, and get some Canadian experience under your belt. You'll find, Sayali, that folks that are able to just get even that 6 months to 2 years worth of Canadian experience, if they've got good management from abroad like yourself, good management experience, they'll be able to move up the ranks quite quickly, and I have seen that happen many times. Oh, does that help? Oh, sorry, I think you're on mute now, Sayali.
Yeah, I guess she's on mute right now.
Okay.
Cool. Let's move on to another question that, let's say, okay. I'm just trying to find the questions. Okay, someone is asking about how much does the length of the resume matter? Is it gonna be more than 2-page, or 2-page is okay or not?
You know what? The length of the resume is okay. Like if it's 2 or 3 pages, that's fine. Just make sure that you're keeping it to 3 to 5 bullet points for each job. Like far too often I see resumes coming through where there are like 10 plus bullet points, and like, it's just a lot of fluff. Like I said, when you're creating these things, keep in mind, people have the attention span of a hamster these days. I do. Like when I look at a resume, like I'm busy, just like hiring managers. I want to see right off the bat, what are those 3 to 5 things that you're good at, that you're competent with, that were your core responsibilities. So length of the resume, not that important, but in my opinion, the content within each job description, keep that 3 to 5 bullet points.
Just to, yeah, sorry. Just to make sure that, it's within the 2 pages, can we, let's say, not mention about the volunteering experience and personal interest, just to make sure that we keep it into 2 pages? Or do you believe that, it should include within the 2 pages?
It depends. Like if in my opinion, like if the requirement from the employer is that the resume is 2 pages or less, then sure. But I do think that again, you wanna include that extra part, just because again, employers get dozens or hundreds of resumes. If you're able to stand out as a human being versus a piece of paper, and the extracurricular part is a good way to do that, why not? But I mean, there are different schools of thought. That's just my point of preference.
Okay, good enough. Perfect. I think we are, someone is asking a question as well, that do you believe that is it the right time to get certified for ACAMS or CFCS, or considering that because of the global slowdown, it's not a good idea right time?
Well, I think right now, with the slowdown, like let's call a spade a spade. There's not a ton of hiring going on right now, right? There's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of volatility in the markets. and there might not be some hiring for a couple months. This is a phenomenal opportunity to build your skill set, to get those certifications, because I can tell you one thing, when it picks up, and it will, you're going to want to be the person with a CAMS designation, with your CFCS, with your CFE, what have you. You're going to want to be that person who took the time during the slowdown to bolster your resume, to broaden your skill set, to set yourself apart from the pack.
Absolutely, I totally agree with that. It's actually, this is the best time to do it, because you want to prepare yourself, you know, for the time that everything will pick up.
Yeah.
So this is the best time. I totally agree with you. Okay, so I want to advise that if anyone else who have got questions, please reach out to Chris or me. I can definitely pass over any questions that you have after this session to Chris, and we can come back to you with response. So we want to thank everyone for attending, and I would like to get your opinion about what is the next session. What do you think that the next session would be for the next session? What are the ideas that you have for the next session? We have some couple of ideas on the polling, so we would like to see your comments, your feedback on what do you think our next session with Chris should be. Let's vote. Gonna give a few seconds. Great. Perfect. So, interview preparation and common mistakes. Chris, you're on for the next session as interview preparation, and I really like that topic too. I think it's a very crucial one, you know, to have.
I actually selfishly also voted for that. That's my favorite topic to cover. So.
Oh, you were not supposed to vote for yourself.
I know, but I will say, like, I'm great at preparing. This is one of the things where I get really fired up. I'm really good at preparing people for interviews. So if that's something everyone wants to learn more about, I can guarantee you that if you participate in the next one, I'll give you some absolute gems as far as advice goes for nailing the interview.
That's amazing. That's perfect. Thank you so much, Chris. And here is the contact email for Chris and as well for myself. Please reach out to us. Make sure that you follow us on LinkedIn. Give us you know, feedback about today's session. Make sure that you follow TCAE and you become a part of the member of TCAE. Visit the website. We're having, you know, a lot of sessions and a lot of webinars coming up. So we're looking forward to having everyone for the next webinars. Thank you, Chris, for your time. Really appreciate it. It was a wonderful time to have you, and thanks for sharing all this valuable insight and experience.
Thank you very much for having me, and to everybody that signed on today, thank you for participating. It was an absolute honor. And like I said, glass half full. This is an opportunity to invest in yourself and set yourself up for success.
Great. Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. And everyone, have a good day. Thanks.